The sun hung high in the sky, blazing down on the endless stretches of golden sand. The desert seemed alive, shimmering with heat, and each step sent small clouds of dust swirling into the air. Ryan wiped the sweat from his brow and adjusted the strap of his backpack. He had been walking for hours, but finally, in the distance, he saw it, the outline of the desert temple, half buried in sand, its stone walls glowing faintly in the harsh sunlight. Ryan's heart beat faster. He had heard stories about this place, ancient carvings, hidden chambers, and artifacts that had survived for centuries. Most explorers had given up before reaching it, deterred by the scorching heat and shifting sands. But Ryan had always been different. He felt a thrill at the thought of discovering something long forgotten, something that could tell the story of a civilization lost to time. As he drew closer, the air grew heavier, and the wind carried grains of sand that stung his face. He paused at the temple's entrance, a massive archway adorned with intricate symbols and faded paintings. The carvings were strange yet beautiful, depicting figures in flowing robes and animals he did not recognize. Each detail told a story, but the meaning was lost to the ages. Ryan took a deep breath and stepped inside. The temperature dropped immediately, the thick stone walls offering a cool relief from the sun. Shadows stretched across the floor, and the faint scent of dust and age filled the air. He ran his fingers over the carvings, marveling at how well they had survived the desert's harshness. Suddenly, a soft rustling echoed through the temple. Ryan froze, his hand instinctively moving to the small dagger at his belt. From the shadowed corner emerged a figure, a young woman with sharp eyes and dark hair pulled back in a braid. Myra. She was examining a set of carvings, her fingers tracing the lines as if trying to read the history itself. Ryan stepped forward cautiously. "I didn't expect anyone else here," he said, his voice echoing slightly. Myra turned, her eyes narrowing at first, then relaxing slightly. "Nor I. But the desert is full of surprises," she replied, her tone calm but firm. "Who are you?" "Ryan," he said. "I'm an explorer." "And you?" "Myra. I've been studying this temple for a while," she explained. "I'm here to learn, not just to wander." Ryan nodded, realizing that they had similar goals. But there was something in her gaze that warned him not to underestimate her. She moved with a quiet confidence, her knowledge of the temple apparent in the way she studied each carving and symbol. The air between them was tense, filled with curiosity and caution. Ryan knew he could not ignore her, yet he also could not let his guard down. The temple was vast, and danger could be hidden in any shadow. "I don't want trouble," Ryan said carefully. "If we're here for the same reason, maybe we can help each other." Myra studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Perhaps. But we need to be careful. This temple is not as empty as it seems." Together, they stepped deeper into the stone corridors. The walls narrowed, and the floor was uneven, covered in sand swept in by the desert wind. Sunlight spilled through cracks in the ceiling, forming sharp lines of gold and orange across the stone. They walked in silence for a while, each lost in their thoughts but aware of the other's presence. At a bend in the corridor, Ryan stopped to examine a series of carved symbols. "These look like instructions, or warnings," he said. Myra knelt beside him, pointing to certain markings. "Yes, I think they mark traps or safe paths. Whoever built this temple wanted to protect something important." Ryan glanced at her, impressed. "You really know your way around this place." Myra smiled faintly. "I've spent months studying old records. This temple is not just stone and sand. It's a story waiting to be read." As they moved further in, the temple seemed to hum with quiet energy. Ryan felt a mix of excitement and caution. The desert outside was harsh, but inside, the temple was alive with history and secrets. And now, with Myra by his side, he felt a strange sense of companionship forming even in this mysterious, dangerous place. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Words were unnecessary, their shared purpose created a bond stronger than conversation. For the first time, Ryan realized that this journey would be unlike any other he had taken. The temple held more than secrets, it held the beginning of something unexpected, a connection that neither of them could yet fully understand. Outside, the sun continued its relentless journey across the sky, but inside the desert temple, two explorers had begun a journey that would change both their lives forever. The deeper Ryan and Myra moved into the temple, the more the air seemed to thicken. The walls were taller, the corridors narrower, and the shadows deeper. Each step brought a quiet echo, and every corner held the possibility of a trap. Ryan's eyes scanned the floor carefully, while Myra studied the walls, searching for hidden markings that could warn them of danger. "I think this temple was built to protect something very important," Myra said softly, her fingers tracing the lines of a carved symbol. "Every corridor, every chamber, it's all part of a larger plan." Ryan nodded, impressed. "And whoever built it knew how to keep people out. Look at this floor, it isn't just uneven. Some stones are loose, and I can see grooves that could trigger something." Myra crouched beside him, examining the floor closely. "Yes. And see these symbols? They probably indicate safe steps. The builders wanted the clever to find their way, but not the careless." Ryan smiled. "Good thing we're both clever then." Myra's lips twitched in the faintest hint of a smile, though her focus remained on the symbols. "Careful. Cleverness alone won't save us if we rush." Their first challenge came quickly. A corridor split into three paths, each marked with a different symbol. Ryan stepped forward, trying to decipher the carvings, but they were worn and confusing. Myra crouched beside him, pointing to a faint line connecting the symbols. "Follow this one. It's more stable. The others might be traps." Ryan followed her guidance, stepping carefully along the marked path. As he moved, the floor beneath one of the other paths suddenly dropped with a soft click, triggering a hidden pit that would have swallowed anyone careless. He glanced at Myra, gratitude shining in his eyes. "You really know this place," he said. Myra shrugged lightly. "Knowledge comes from study, observation, and a little luck." They moved forward, side by side, navigating twists and turns. The corridors seemed endless, each one revealing new carvings, each more intricate than the last. Myra explained the history behind some symbols, sharing her understanding of the temple's builders and the civilization that had once flourished in the desert. Ryan listened carefully, fascinated. He had expected adventure and danger, but he had not expected the depth of history and thought hidden within the stone walls. The temple was not just a place of traps, it was a story, a memory preserved through centuries. Hours passed, and they reached a chamber unlike the others. The air was warmer here, and the sunlight streaming through cracks in the ceiling created bright patterns on the floor. In the center of the room stood a massive stone door, covered in carvings that seemed to shift and move as they looked at them. "This must be the central chamber," Myra whispered. "It looks like it hasn't been opened for centuries." Ryan examined the door carefully. "There's some kind of mechanism, maybe a puzzle or a lock. It won't open easily." Myra smiled faintly. "That's why it's here. Only those who understand the temple can reach what's inside." Let's see if we're worthy. They worked together, examining the symbols and testing the stones along the door. At first, nothing happened. Ryan pressed a few tiles, and the door remained still. Myra studied the carvings, noticing subtle patterns that hinted at the correct sequence. Slowly, they began to coordinate their actions, Ryan pressing stones while Myra guided him with careful instructions. After several tense minutes, a deep rumble echoed through the chamber. The massive door shifted slightly, then slowly swung open, revealing a dimly lit room beyond. Ryan and Myra exchanged a look of excitement and relief. "We did it," Ryan said, a wide grin spreading across his face. Myra nodded, her eyes shining. "We did. Together." Inside the chamber, the air was cool, almost refreshing after the heat of the desert and the oppressive stone corridors. Ancient artifacts lay on stone pedestals, and intricate carvings covered the walls, telling stories of a civilization that had thrived long before. Light spilled from small openings above, illuminating the room in a soft, golden glow. Ryan and Myra moved carefully, taking in every detail. "This is incredible," Ryan whispered. "I never imagined a place like this would exist." Myra nodded, her gaze lingering on a carved scene of scholars and builders at work. "It's more than incredible. It's a record of humanity, of knowledge, courage, and creativity." As they explored, the tension between them eased. Their initial caution had grown into mutual respect, and that respect slowly blossomed into something warmer, though neither spoke of it aloud. Every shared smile, every gesture of help, created a subtle bond between them. Outside, the sun continued to scorch the desert sands. Inside, Ryan and Myra had found not only the hidden wonders of the temple but also the beginning of a connection that would grow with each challenge they faced together. And as they prepared to explore even deeper, they knew the temple had many more secrets to reveal and many more opportunities to test their courage, skill, and partnership. The chamber beyond the massive stone door was unlike anything Ryan had seen before. The walls were covered with glowing symbols, faintly pulsing in the dim light, and the floor was smooth, polished stone that reflected the soft glow above. Dust floated in the air like tiny sparks of light, giving the room a quiet, magical feeling. Ryan stepped forward carefully, feeling a mixture of excitement and awe. Myra followed, her eyes wide as she traced her fingers over the symbols. "These markings, they are older than anything I have ever studied," she whispered. "They tell stories, lessons, even warnings. This temple is not just a building, it's a record of wisdom." Ryan bent down to look closer at a carved pattern on the floor. "It looks like a map," he said. "Or maybe instructions for something." Myra joined him, leaning over. "Yes. But it's more than directions. These symbols are about balance. The builders wanted to show how knowledge, courage, and patience work together. They wanted anyone who enters to understand these lessons before moving deeper." Ryan smiled. "Patience, huh? I think we've learned that already." Myra glanced at him, the faintest smile on her lips. "Yes, but the lesson is far from over." As they moved further into the room, they noticed a series of small doors along the walls. Each door was carved with different scenes. One showed people lifting heavy stones, another depicted a scholar reading scrolls, and a third showed figures helping one another across a river. Myra knelt in front of the first door. "These doors, they are trials. Each one teaches something, tests something." Ryan's eyes widened. "Trials? You mean like puzzles?" Myra nodded. "Yes, but also choices. The builders wanted the traveler to show skill, intelligence, and teamwork. I think we should try them together. The first trial involved moving large stone blocks to match the carvings on the wall. Ryan and Myra worked together, testing different positions, their movements careful but determined. The blocks were heavy, and the task required both strength and precision. Ryan strained as he pushed one block, while Myra guided him. A little to the left, now lower it slowly, she instructed. After several attempts, the blocks fit perfectly, clicking into place. A soft rumble echoed through the room, and a panel slid open, revealing a hidden passage. Ryan looked at Myra, impressed. We did it. Teamwork works better than strength alone. Myra smiled warmly. Yes, and it feels good to share the success. The next chamber tested their memory and observation. Symbols on the walls glowed in a certain sequence, and they had to repeat the pattern by stepping on tiles in the correct order. Ryan took a deep breath and began. Myra followed, correcting him when needed, and together they completed the sequence perfectly. The floor beneath them vibrated softly, and a small staircase revealed itself, leading further down. This temple really does test everything, Ryan said, wiping sweat from his brow. Strength, brains, patience, and teamwork. Myra nodded. And perhaps more than that. It teaches respect. Respect for knowledge, for the builders, and for each other. Ryan caught her gaze for a moment, noticing the warmth in her eyes. He felt a strange flutter in his chest, a mixture of admiration, respect, and something he did not yet fully understand. Myra seemed to sense it, but she did not comment. Instead, she extended her hand toward the next door, inviting him to follow. The third trial required them to solve a riddle carved into the wall, written in symbols and words. Ryan read aloud, trying different combinations, while Myra examined patterns in the carvings for clues. After several attempts, they realized that the riddle could only be solved by combining their ideas. Neither could do it alone. When the answer finally clicked into place, the room filled with a soft, golden light, illuminating intricate carvings they had not noticed before. The walls depicted people working together, sharing knowledge, and protecting their community. It was a vision of harmony and unity, a message that had survived centuries. Ryan turned to Myra, awed. It's beautiful. I didn't expect something like this in the middle of a desert. Myra smiled softly. That's why it's here. The temple is more than a place. It's a guide, a story, a teacher. And it shows us the value of partnership, of helping each other, learning together, and respecting what came before us. Ryan nodded, feeling a quiet pride. They had faced challenges together, solved puzzles, and moved through trials as a team. More than that, he realized he trusted Myra more than he had trusted anyone in a long time. As they rested briefly in the glowing chamber, the desert heat outside felt distant, irrelevant. Here, inside the temple, they had found a world of knowledge, challenge, and companionship. And though neither spoke it aloud, a subtle bond had begun to grow, quietly and steadily, just like the light that filled the hidden room. The quiet of the glowing chamber was broken by a low rumble outside. Ryan stood and pressed his ear to the stone wall, frowning. "Do you hear that?" he asked. Myra looked up from the carvings she was examining. "Yes, it sounds like wind," she said. "But stronger, much stronger." They moved to the entrance of the chamber, peering out through the gaps in the ancient stone walls. Outside, the desert sky had darkened, and clouds of sand swirled violently in the air. A sudden desert storm had risen without warning, and the sun was swallowed by a swirling haze of sand and wind. "We should stay inside until it passes," Myra said calmly. It could be dangerous to go out now. Ryan nodded. Agreed. The temple will protect us better than the open desert. They returned to the glowing chamber and looked for a place to sit. The air outside roared, sending vibrations through the stone walls, but inside, the chamber remained surprisingly calm. Ryan leaned against a wall, wiping sweat from his forehead despite the cooler air. Myra arranged some cushions of fabric she had brought along, placing them near a faint source of light in the corner. As the storm raged outside, silence fell between them. The only sound was the faint hum of the glowing symbols. Ryan watched Myra study the carvings carefully, her fingers tracing the intricate lines. It's strange, he said softly. Even with the storm, I feel safe here. Myra glanced at him, her eyes meeting his. Yes. The temple protects those who respect it. And it seems we respect it, and each other. Ryan smiled faintly. He did not expect to feel comforted by her words, yet he did. He realized how much he relied on her guidance, her calm confidence, and the quiet way she seemed to understand the temple's secrets. The storm continued outside, howling like a living thing. Ryan and Myra spoke little, sharing the silence in a comfortable way. Eventually, the conversation drifted to their pasts. I never imagined I'd spend so much time in a desert temple, Ryan admitted. I used to explore small ruins near my home, but nothing like this. Myra smiled. I've dreamed of discovering lost knowledge since I was a child. I read about ancient civilizations, imagined their lives, and wanted to learn from them. But I never expected to find someone else here, someone I could work with. Ryan felt a warmth in his chest, a mixture of admiration and connection. I'm glad we met too, he said quietly. Myra's gaze softened, but she looked away, focusing on the carvings. The words hung between them, unspoken but understood. There was more than friendship beginning here, though neither was ready to name it. As night fell outside, the temperature in the chamber dropped. The storm howled like an unrestrained force, shaking loose dust from the walls. Ryan shivered slightly and noticed Myra rubbing her arms for warmth. Without thinking, he offered his jacket, which she accepted with a faint smile. Thank you, she said softly. They sat together, the storm enclosing them in a world apart from the desert. The flickering glow of the symbols painted their faces in soft light, and for the first time, Ryan felt that their partnership had grown into something deeper. Trust, respect, and now a subtle bond of care. Hours passed, and the storm showed no sign of slowing. Outside, the desert remained wild and untamed, but inside, Ryan and Myra found a quiet rhythm. They shared stories of their childhoods, laughed softly at small memories, and supported each other through moments of fatigue or doubt. The temple, in its silent wisdom, seemed to encourage their connection. Eventually, Ryan looked at Myra, his eyes serious. You know, we've faced puzzles, trials, and now this storm. I think we make a good team. Myra's smile was faint but warm. Yes, we do. And it's not just about survival. It's about understanding each other, learning together, and maybe something more. Ryan felt his heart beat faster. Something more, he echoed, unsure if he should speak it aloud, but glad that she had said it first. As the night stretched on, the storm outside slowly began to ease, though the desert remained tense with sand and wind. Inside the chamber, Ryan and Myra felt the strength of their partnership, the quiet trust that had grown between them, and the beginnings of something tender and unspoken. When they finally drifted into a light sleep on the cushions, the storm continued its rage outside, but inside, the desert temple had given them warmth, shelter, and the first taste of a bond that would guide them through the many mysteries still hidden in its depths. When Ryan and Myra awoke, the storm outside had finally passed. The desert sun pierced through cracks in the temple walls, casting bright beams of light across the chamber. Dust danced in the air, sparkling in the sunlight like tiny golden stars. Ryan stretched, feeling the stiffness from the previous day's challenges, and glanced at Myra. She was already moving toward the next corridor, her expression calm but determined. "Ready to continue?" she asked, looking over her shoulder. Ryan nodded. "Absolutely. Let's see what this temple really has to offer." The corridor ahead was wide and lined with carvings unlike any they had seen before. The walls depicted figures in long robes, carrying strange objects, and guiding others through trials. Myra ran her fingers lightly over the stone. This is different. These carvings show more than skill or strength. They show leadership, wisdom, and courage. Whoever built this temple wanted to teach more than just survival, they wanted to inspire. Ryan smiled. "Then we're about to learn a lot." As they walked, the corridor narrowed into a circular chamber. At its center stood a massive stone pedestal, and atop it rested an object unlike any Ryan had seen. A soft golden light radiated from the artifact, illuminating the entire room. It was shaped like a crystal, smooth and warm to the touch, yet it seemed alive with energy. Myra stepped closer, awe in her eyes. The central artifact, it's said to give insight to those who approach it with respect and courage. I think this is what the temple has been protecting all along. Ryan approached carefully, feeling the warmth of the crystal in his chest even before he touched it. "It's beautiful. But I can't help thinking, there's a reason it's guarded so carefully." Myra nodded. "Yes. It's not just the artifact itself, it's the trials we've faced to reach it. The temple tests not only skill but character." They studied the pedestal, realizing that the crystal was surrounded by a series of mechanical locks and engraved patterns. Each symbol on the floor seemed to correspond to a symbol on the pedestal, and a sequence had to be completed for the artifact to be accessible. Ryan and Myra exchanged a look. "We need to do this together," Myra said. Ryan nodded. "Agreed. Teamwork brought us this far, it won't fail us now." Step by step, they began to move along the floor, pressing the tiles in a careful pattern, while Myra guided Ryan with the knowledge she had gathered from the carvings. Some steps triggered soft clicks, while others caused subtle shifts in the pedestal's mechanism. Each mistake required them to pause, re-evaluate, and try again. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky outside, and shadows in the chamber shifted slowly, but inside, they remained focused. With each small success, their confidence grew, and with it, a deepening sense of connection. Ryan noticed the way Myra's brow furrowed when she concentrated, the faint sparkle in her eyes when they solved a tricky sequence, and he felt an unexpected warmth in his chest. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last tile clicked into place. The pedestal shivered, and the crystal rose slightly, glowing brighter than ever. A soft hum filled the chamber, a sound that seemed to resonate with their very hearts. Ryan and Myra exchanged a look of triumph and relief. "We did it," Ryan whispered, smiling widely. "Yes, together," Myra replied, her voice soft but full of joy. They approached the crystal carefully. Ryan reached out, feeling its warmth and energy. Myra placed her hand lightly on top of his, and the two stood together, sharing the moment in quiet reverence. The artifact seemed to respond to their combined presence, glowing even more brightly as if acknowledging their teamwork, respect, and courage. "It's amazing," Ryan breathed. "Not just the artifact, but everything. The temple, the trials, us working together, it all led to this." Myra nodded, her eyes reflecting the golden light. "It's a reward for perseverance and partnership. The temple teaches that courage and respect must be shared, not claimed alone." Ryan glanced at her, realizing just how much their journey had changed him. The trials had not only tested their strength and intelligence, they had strengthened the trust and bond between them. He felt a deep sense of admiration, and perhaps something more, for Myra. As they left the central chamber, carefully carrying the artifact with them, the desert sun outside seemed less harsh, almost welcoming. They had achieved what few could, and they had done it side by side. The temple still held secrets, and the desert beyond awaited new adventures, but for Ryan and Myra, the day had shown something far more valuable than treasures or knowledge. It had shown them the power of teamwork, trust, and connection. And though neither spoke it aloud yet, both knew that their partnership had grown into something rare and meaningful, a bond that would guide them through the many challenges still ahead. The desert outside glowed under the late afternoon sun as Ryan and Myra emerged from the temple's shadow. The air was dry and warm, carrying the scent of sand and distant rocks. After days spent navigating the temple, surviving its traps, and solving its puzzles, the world outside felt both familiar and foreign, like stepping into a place that had always existed, yet held a new meaning. Ryan paused and took a deep breath. "We did it," he said quietly, looking at Myra. "We actually reached the central chamber. The artifact, the temple, it's all real." Myra smiled softly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "Yes. And we did it together. That's what makes it special. The temple tests more than skill, it tests heart, patience, and the bond between people." Ryan nodded. For a long moment, they walked in silence, side by side, feeling the heat of the desert and the quiet satisfaction of their accomplishment. But beneath the calm, something unspoken had begun to stir between them, a quiet tension that neither wanted to name but both could feel. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they found a small ledge overlooking the desert plains. They sat down, the soft glow of the sunset casting long shadows behind them. Myra pulled a water flask from her pack and offered it to Ryan, who accepted it gratefully. "You know," Myra said, taking a sip herself, "I never expected this adventure to be like this. I thought it would be all puzzles, traps, and danger. But it's more than that. It's about people. It's about learning from each other and sharing the journey." Ryan looked at her, the fading light reflecting in his eyes. "I felt the same. I didn't just learn about the temple. I learned about you. And I think I admire more than just your knowledge. You're calm, strong, patient, and brave." Myra's cheeks tinged slightly with color, though she tried to hide it. "Ryan, I've felt it too. I admire you. You're clever, courageous, and you never give up, even when things seem impossible. I think we make a good team." Ryan's heart beat faster, and for a moment, he struggled to find words. "A good team, yes. And maybe, something more." Myra met his gaze, her eyes soft and honest. "Something more," she repeated. She reached out slowly, placing her hand gently on his. The warmth of her touch seemed to spread through him, like the heat of the desert sun, but softer, comforting. They sat together in silence for a moment, letting the world fade away. The temple, the trials, the storm, all of it had led them here, to this quiet moment of connection. Neither rushed, neither forced the other, yet the bond between them felt undeniable, strong, and real. Ryan took a deep breath. I've traveled many places, seen many ruins and mysteries, but I've never felt this. Never like this with anyone. Myra squeezed his hand lightly. Nor have I. This temple, the desert, it brought us together. And I think that's something worth remembering. As the sun dipped lower, the desert transformed. The golden sand turned to deep amber, shadows stretching across the dunes. The air cooled, and a soft breeze whispered across the plains. Ryan and Myra stayed on the ledge, watching the sky, feeling the quiet strength of their connection. I'm glad we're facing this together, Ryan said softly. Not just the temple, but everything. I feel like we can handle whatever comes next. Myra nodded, her hand still resting on his. Yes. Together. That's what matters. We've learned to trust each other, to respect each other, and now, we've found something more. The moment lingered, delicate and perfect. Neither needed to speak more, the desert, the sunset, and the temple's wisdom were enough. They had survived challenges, discovered treasures, and uncovered secrets, but the greatest discovery was the quiet, growing connection between them. As the night approached, the stars began to appear, twinkling above the endless desert. Ryan and Myra stood, shoulders brushing, and prepared to return to their camp. The journey was not over, and the world held many more mysteries, but now they faced it with trust, companionship, and the first light of love guiding their steps. The desert had been harsh, the temple demanding, but through it all, Ryan and Myra had found each other. And in that realization, they felt a warmth stronger than the sun, steadier than the sands, a bond that would carry them through every challenge yet to come. The first rays of morning sunlight stretched across the desert, painting the sands in soft gold and orange. Ryan and Myra stood at the temple entrance, looking back at the massive stone structure that had tested them, challenged them, and ultimately brought them together. The desert wind stirred gently, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant rocks, a reminder that the world beyond the temple awaited them. Ryan adjusted his pack, glancing at Myra with a quiet smile. It's hard to believe it's over, or at least this part of it. The temple, the trials, the artifact, it feels like we've been here forever. Myra nodded, her eyes reflecting both the rising sun and the calm satisfaction she felt. It does. But I think the temple gave us more than knowledge. It gave us perspective, patience, courage. And maybe something else, too. Ryan felt a warmth in his chest. He remembered the moments inside the temple, the challenges, the storms, the long hours deciphering symbols together. And he remembered Myra's calm, thoughtful presence beside him through it all. Yes, he said softly. Something else. Something I think I've known for a while, but didn't fully understand until now. Myra looked at him, her gaze steady. And what is that? She asked, a small smile playing at her lips. Ryan took a deep breath. That we work best, together. That I trust you. And, that I care about you. More than just as a companion or a partner in exploration. For a moment, Myra said nothing, studying him closely. Then she smiled, soft and genuine. I feel the same, Ryan. I've felt it grow during our journey, the respect, the trust, and now, something stronger. Something that isn't just about the temple or the artifact. Ryan reached out and took her hand. The warmth of her fingers met his, and for a moment, the desert seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them standing together in the quiet morning light. The bond they had formed over days of trials and discovery now felt solid and real, unshakable even in the harshness of the desert. They began walking together, leaving the temple behind. The path was familiar now, and the sand seemed softer, welcoming them as they retraced their steps. The artifact rested safely in their pack, a symbol of the knowledge and perseverance that had carried them through the temple. But more than any treasure or discovery, they carried each other the understanding, trust, and connection that had grown quietly through shared challenges. As they walked, the desert stretched endlessly before them, a vast world full of possibilities. Ryan glanced at Myra, noticing the way the sunlight caught her hair, the calm confidence in her step, and the gentle strength in her presence. "I think the desert isn't so empty after all," he said, smiling. Myra laughed softly. "No, it isn't. Not when you have someone to share it with. Every dune, every horizon, it feels different when you're not alone." They walked in comfortable silence for a while, letting the rhythm of the desert and the quiet bond between them guide their steps. Every shared glance, every small touch of hands, every unspoken word added to the story they were creating together, a story that began with curiosity and adventure, and now blossomed into something deeper, something lasting. Eventually, they reached a small plateau overlooking the desert. The view stretched for miles, the sands shimmering in the morning light, dotted with rocks and distant dunes. Ryan and Myra stood side by side, taking in the beauty and stillness of the landscape. "We've come a long way," Ryan said softly, his voice almost lost in the wind. "The temple, the trials, everything. And now we have the rest of the world ahead of us." Myra nodded, her hand brushing against his. "Yes. And we face it together. Whatever challenges come next, we know we can rely on each other. We've proven that." Ryan smiled, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known before. "And more than that, we've found something stronger than any treasure or artifact. We've found trust, respect, and each other." Myra squeezed his hand gently. "Exactly. And that's worth more than any gold or knowledge in the world." For a long moment, they simply stood together, watching the sun rise higher in the sky. The desert was vast, the world beyond waiting with endless possibilities, but Ryan and Myra knew that no matter where their journey took them, they had each other. Finally, they began walking again, leaving the plateau behind, the temple a shadow in the distance. The adventure had changed them, strengthened them, and brought them together in a way neither could have imagined. The desert, once harsh and unyielding, now seemed like a place of promise, adventure, and hope. And as they moved forward, side by side, their hands brushed and stayed together, unspoken words of care and admiration passing between them. The journey had been difficult, full of heat, trials, and mystery, but in the end, it had led them to something far greater, a bond that would carry them through every adventure yet to come. The desert temple stood behind them, silent and eternal, holding its secrets for future travelers. But Ryan and Myra looked ahead, to the endless sands, to the bright horizon, and to the new story they would write together, a story of trust, courage, and the quiet, enduring power of connection.